Elderly Care Mediations, part of the series Mediation Tips by Fran Brochstein. This is our topic for today.
Welcome to the Lawyers and Mediators International Show and Podcast by InstantMediations.com, where we discuss law and conflict resolution topics to educate both professionals and everyday people. Catch regular episodes on YouTube and anywhere you get your podcasts. Just remember, nothing in these episodes constitutes legal advice, so be sure to talk to a lawyer, as cases are fact dependent.
Hello and welcome. My name is Natalia and I am an advocate, mediator, and arbitrator in Warsaw, Poland.
Hey everybody, this is Mac Pierre-Louis, attorney, mediator, arbitrator, working out Florida and Texas.
And I'm Fran Brochstein, an attorney and mediator just in Texas.
Today we are going to discuss a topic that might seem obvious, but then we really see the growing importance of it. And as Fran was justifiably saying just before we started recording, we are just after the holiday season now, at the beginnings of January 2023, and we are now at the situation where quite recently we've been sitting together at one table with our loved ones, and we've been probably noticing that time goes by and time brings inevitable changes in the behaviors, in the customs of our loved ones. But also, unfortunately, all of that brings discrepancy and a lot of disputes over how to deal between one generation and another in one family, where we just sometimes clash when we start talking. Fran, tell us, what is elderly care mediations all about, and why do we do it?
Well, it's a growing field. I think it's going to continue to grow as people age and their children need to figure out what to do with mom or dad. And it is very different. Many times the siblings do not get along or don't communicate. And this is an option that can be very cost savings for the family and also open up communication tools regarding the elderly person as well as their grown children. So I really encourage people to do some research into this field and to look at a professionally trained elder care mediator to assist them as their family transitions and life goes on.
So, Fran, can you give us some examples of when you typically see elderly care mediation take place? Would it be mainly in the context of the hospitalization and making like end of life care decisions? Would it be in the context of finances, where dealing with maybe money and how money is going to be outlaid by children for caring for older parents? Where do you typically see mediations like this?
Well, Mac, if an elderly person's income is only on Social Security, it usually is not enough now if a person has to be hospitalized long term or they go to an independent living facility or even a personal care home or a long term facility. Um, so money is always a problem, and the cost of leaving a person's home and having to go to some form of assisted living, is unbelievably expensive. And many times, kids now live all over the country, or quite frankly, all over the world. And so they don't see their parents that often. So just because mommy or daddy was sharp as a tack last Christmas doesn't mean 6 or 9 months from now that they're going to be the same person. And if people just talk to someone on the phone for 5 or 10 minutes, most people can fake it. I went with this with my dad. If you talk to him in the morning, he sounded spiffy. But and I did call his lawyer one time and said, the last time you were talking to my dad on the phone, he was standing butt naked in his kitchen. And he was like, what? And I said, quit talking to him on the phone and come see him in person. You need to see how he has changed dramatically the last few months. And so that's one thing about these elder care mediations, and it can be any topic that they want to cover. Usually it is when a crisis occurs because most people don't want to deal with something until mommy or daddy fall and break a hip. And
And having said
COVID
that,
COVID
yeah,
really brought this to a head.
but it is also, I understand the thing that sometimes it is just practical, and I'm sorry of how harsh it sounds, um, for the reasons of professional care to have someone placed under this assisted living facilities and environment. However, these are our loved ones, our elderly who don't want that. And I understand that the elderly care mediations might also be a place where those elderly are being given a voice to express their concerns, but also the other generation is able to express their concerns to reach some sort of an agreement and then to find a place where this particular person will be best off when they live, with some nurse or doctor being assisting them. Tell
I
us if
I
you.
agree. It's
Mhm, mhm.
the biggest problem many times I see is, let's just say mom wants to stay at home, but she's falling. And one daughter says, "Well, mom wants to stay at home." And the other daughter says, "Well, you never are here. You're in another country, and I can't take care of her." And eventually, adult protective services many times get called because if the fire department's coming out all the time because mommy's falling, it's a problem. And so, listening to the elder person is very important to let them feel that they can voice their opinions, but in sometimes we need to deal with reality, which is if the person is not safe at home anymore, we're going to have to come up with another idea. So, mediation is a way of doing it where it's confidential. They can do several sessions, they can be given homework assignments to do some research about what's available in the area, and also to consider should mom or dad move across country to where the other child lives if the care in that area is better. So, a lot of times it's just a lot of brainstorming and coming up with suggestions for people because this is a very emotional and, in many cases, very sad situation. I mean, it was tough watching my parents age and eventually pass away. That was hard on me. And I was an attorney and did this on a daily basis because when it's your parents, the people that raised you, and I think mediation is so important because it gives everyone dignity. And dignity, especially towards the elderly, is so important.
Absolutely. Fran, who are the typical stakeholders at the table, at the mediation table, in all of this? Is it typically just the children of the elderly? I'm imagining a situation where there are children, adult children, or what if the children are really young because the elderly parents had them really late in life? Who are the typical stakeholders at the mediation table?
Well, I mean, nowadays, many people have more than one marriage. And so, what's really interesting is when you have to get their adult stepchildren involved, because sometimes uh, a husband and wife, and maybe it's a second or third marriage, and one of them needs a lot of medical care. And is it fair to the healthy spouse to support the unhealthy spouse? These are very complex, difficult situations. Everyone is unique. And usually, what I get is a phone call from one of the children, usually the one that's dealing with mom or dad the most. And they want to get their siblings and perhaps step siblings together just to try to all get on the same page. So these are often, many times, I will schedule a series of short 2 hour sessions and let them, first of all, vent and express their opinions and then try to work toward solutions. And many times it's, if especially if money is tight, there are no good solutions.
And I'm thank you for that. And I was thinking as well that the typical error that so many people commit is actually not listening to the elderly and actually speaking over them, like they don't exist, don't hear. Like, so imagine that the person who is actually affected or whose situation is to be discussed is here, but we're talking, so what does he want? Where do we put him? Like he was an object and not a subject. That brings me so much pain, and I want to share a story. As an attorney, I was engaged in a situation where there was an elderly couple, a very good couple. They've been married for more than 60 years, and they had only one son. The son decided that he wishes to put mom into the elderly care facilities. So when dad was, I think, hospitalized or any other, or somewhere away, he just took mom and put her into the place, not informing the dad where the mom is. The problem we got there was that this elderly couple were permanently separated, and they still loved each other, and they were not even able to see each other. I was so deeply moved by this case. Like, how can the younger generation making, let's say, reasonable decisions actually play on the elder generation's emotions? How can you separate your own parents if they still love each other? How can you not take their feelings into account? So, these are all the factors that we need to keep in mind. These are people with feelings. We have our own feelings, we have our own concerns, but we are again affecting other people's lives. We can't treat them like objects. And that was really something that struck me so much.
Yeah, I think the when we're dealing with this space, this whole topic, we're dealing with a tug and pull of two types of emotions. One, there's the dignity issue for the elderly, okay, and helping people make decisions that are proper and right without much fuss, so that they can be cared for and things can be, properly um, uh, granted for them. On the other area of emotions deals with the pressure and the problems and the pain that the younger generation has to go through, because a lot of them, they are busy, they have families, they have children, they have their own marital problems and the everyday issues of life. And most people, I don't think, are ever prepared or plan for, oh, dad's 80, oh, mom just turned 75. This seems to be a set of issues that kind of comes upon you and no one pre-plans for it. As you guys know, I was just in Florida, celebrating my dad's 70th birthday. And thankfully all of my siblings, okay, full siblings, half siblings, were all together celebrating his life, and he's still here. We're thankful for that. And we're all on the same page, okay? So there's no conflicts, there's no issues, and I'm thankful for that, because I know a lot of people don't have that benefit. And I'm 43, so I'm already thinking, okay, he's getting up there in age. He's reached 70. In the next number of years, where are we going to be in 10 years, when 15 years from now? And so now I'm trying to think about these topics as well. But look, I still got a mortgage, right? I have issues I have to deal with, but he needs dignity and needs to be cared for as time passes. So I think we're constantly dealing with two sets of values that sometimes clash. And the mediator's job in this field is, how do we address both in a way that's going to be, helpful for the elderly in their care, but also be mindful of the fact that folks have lives. Okay, they live in Oklahoma while parents live in Florida. That's a common thing. Americans move in this country. We don't stay where we're born. We move around, and so. But yeah, go ahead. Give us some more thoughts. It's 14 after. This one was going to be
Well,
a short topic, but
it could be these could be very challenging because you might have parents in their 90s Their children are in their 70s, and then their children are in their 40s, and they all need to work together. And many times the grandchildren and the grandparents are getting along better than the children. And so this thing can actually be a very challenging field for mediators because it can involve basically three generations.
Mm.
So I know, and we normally it does occur that everything is going around smoothly until there's some kind of bump in the road
Yep.
via fall, or mentally they quit paying their bills, or they run out of money, or something like that. Something's going to happen that's going to bring it to a head. And what I want to encourage people to do is look at mediators on your website and talk to some and try to, instead of litigating and just fighting and screaming, try another alternative route, which would be mediation.
Awesome. Natalia, you want to close us out?
Yes, and please remember, mediation is a place where there is dignity for everybody. When there is a moment where they can have their voice, when they can be heard, and when the agreement that is being reached is not imposed on the parties by a judge, by anybody, by any authority, by social services or whatever you might be fearing. This is something you work out for yourself, for your parents. That's the best way. And also, when you feel like your parents or your grandparents, whom you are taking care of, don't listen to you any longer, mediator can help you get your message through. And this is what we would want to encourage you to look for a mediator, mediate, not litigate.
Yes. And instantmediations.com is a place, guys, one place on the internet where you can go check out different mediators that you can choose from. All right, guys. Until next time. Thank you so much, Fran.
Bye bye.